So, my question is, do you love books? I've got some of my favorite books with me today. The topic for today is the top 5 best content marketing books. Whether you blog or podcast or YouTube videos, or if you're creating some type of content online, what are the best books that you should be reading right now? That's what we're going to talk about on today's show. Hey messengers, welcome to the Market Your Message Show. I'm your host, Jonathan Milligan, and author of the book, Your Message Matters. In today's topic, I'm excited to dive into my top 5 favorite content marketing books. Now, I recently went through all of my books. It's overtaking my bookshelves. I got to buy more bookshelves. I love reading books. I've read just about everything out there related to the industry that I work in online marketing. Now, these books I'm going to share with you today are not just my favorite business books. We can certainly do another episode, but I really narrowed it down to the books that help people who are looking to get better at building an audience online around blogging, podcasting, YouTube videos, live streaming, or even social media marketing. So I've really focused on books that spend at least a good portion of their books on that. Now, I'll do another separate episode on some of my favorite business books in general because I've got some favorites. So what are we going to talk about in today's show specifically? Well, here's what we're going to discover. We're going to discover why you should be reading books on content marketing. 2, how to implement what you learn after reading great books. And then number 3, my 5 best content marketing books so far. Also, maybe you're at this place where you're just getting started. You're like, Jonathan, I'm just starting to figure out blogging or hearing about blogging, or I've been listening to podcasts. I'm thinking of starting a podcast. I don't know where to start. Well, if you don't know where to start, then I would encourage you to check out a download that we've put together. It's a 9-page guidebook called Discover Your Message. It's the Discover Your Message blueprint, and you can get it for free right now by going to marketyourmessage.com/discover. All right, let's get into today's topic. We are going to be talking about my top 5 favorite content marketing books. So, and I'm also, as I'm going to go through this, I'm going to give you a few highlights. I've got the books with me right here. I'm going to go through this, and I am going to kind of start from number 5, work my way to number 1, create the anticipation, and also maybe you've read these books. Maybe you've got some favorites of your own. I would love to get feedback. So feel free to give me feedback on the books that maybe I didn't mention that you like as well. All right, I'm going to start with number 5. And number 5 is Social Media Success for Every Brand. Now, this book was written by Claire Diaz-Ortiz. She works with Donald Miller, if you're familiar with StoryBrand. The StoryBrand concept related to social media. I found this to be really fascinating, and I would say this is a good book overall. I will say this, it's really difficult to create books on social media because things change. I mean, things change all the time. Like right now, fleets are a thing, and I think that's the name they stuck with. It's kind of like stories that we see for Instagram or Facebook. Now Twitter is getting into the game on stories, the little short little things that you can do to market. Things change. So obviously it's probably not going to be included in this. But what I did enjoy about this book is they gave kind of a model for you to use when it comes to approaching social media. They use the acronym SHARE, and then they apply it for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and more. By the way, as I'm going through this, one of the tips that I can give you when it comes to reading good books is as you're reading a good book, always mark books. So when you're looking to mark books, you want to put a little, maybe a little toggle mark or just a little marking in the all the way out in the edge, in the margin. And then that way, when I'm flipping back through a book that I like to just go to my highlights. And so I'll say, oh, I've got a little notch there. What was that about? And a notch here. And it's a way for me to get back into the highlights of the book. Sometimes from there, what I'll do, and I haven't done it yet with this book, but I will find and try to find a blank page on the front of the book, and it becomes my index. I'll put page numbers of the little markings that I did, or I'll just find my top 10 highlights. So that's a way that I can actually find things quickly. Now, this is a great practice if you are a writer or you want to write books in the future. I found this to be incredibly helpful for me when I was writing my latest book, because all of a sudden an illustration that I read in another book or a quote that I remember reading in a book, but I couldn't remember where it was. And so I would grab books off my shelf and I would flip to my own index, and I would be able to, oh yeah, here's where that was located, find the page, reference it in my book. So there's just a little extra bonus tip. When you consume books, make sure that you mark them. Put your top 10 takeaways. Do your best to apply what you've learned, and oftentimes I at least try to find one thing that I can apply immediately when I read a good book. So that's number 5. Number 4, drum roll please. It is the 10X marketing formula from Garrett Moon. Now, Garrett Moon is the founder of CoSchedule. Some of you may have heard of CoSchedule. They are a platform online. It looks like a calendar, but it's actually a social media scheduling calendar. Now, I've been a fan. I've actually been a user of CoSchedule for many years. I'm no longer, and there's some specific reasons for that. I think it's a great software, but I think over time they became more targeted towards corporate marketing departments and teams than they did your individual blogger. And since I work with a lot of people who are just getting started, I like to use tools that I can recommend to newbies. But thankfully, you don't have to have CoSchedule to implement the strategies. Now, this is a big book. There's a lot of reading in this book. One of the things that I particularly like out of this book was some of the time management elements and project management. If you have a project that you want to tackle or get done, they also have something in here called the content scorecard, and kind of what they consider to be the ideal social promotion campaign schedule. So for example, if you have a blog post, how could you schedule that blog post to be shared on social media for the next year? How often should you do it in Facebook and Twitter? And so it's got a campaign schedule, 1 day after published, 4 days, 5 days, 13 days. And so I found that to be super helpful. There's email promotion in here as well, and more. Overall, I found it to be a good read. It is probably got portions of it that's geared more towards corporate content teams in a corporation setting, but I found it to be a super helpful book. All right, are you ready for number 3? The number 3 book is Digital Marketing for Dummies. Now, I certainly am not calling you a dummy, but what I love about content marketing for dummies is that it breaks it down into very, very simplistic terms. For those of you who might be struggling a little bit with some of the terminology or just getting your mind around everything digital marketing, what I love about this is this was actually written by the guys over at Digital Marketer, and they're the real deal. So this isn't somebody who doesn't understand digital marketing. These are people who I've learned from, and I have a lot of respect for. Ryan Dice, Russ Henneberry, and it's a Digital Marketing for Dummies book. And I like some of the things I like in this book. I particularly like some of the chapters on blogging. They have 57 blog post ideas. I thought that was great. They talk about crafting winning offers, how to promote your blog post, talk a lot about search engine marketing as well, a little bit of paid traffic and email marketing. So it's a very, very foundational book, but it does have some advanced strategies It talks about the 10 most common digital marketing mistakes that people make, and some of the trends about where things are going. Now, this isn't a new book. I think this book was published a year or two ago, but I find it to be still very, very relevant. It was actually published 2017. I think it actually came out 2018. So Digital Marketing for Dummies, great desk reference. This isn't necessarily something that you're going to read from front to back. It's more or less opening it up and, email marketing 101 and looking at email marketing 101 or content marketing in the different sections there. So that is number 3. Number 2 book on my list, favorite content marketing books, is Traffic Secrets from Russell Brunson. This is the latest one that just came out. This is actually part of a 3-book trilogy that he's been working on. There's the .com secrets and there's the expert secrets. Those other books, they're great books, but they're not so much focused on content marketing, more about funnels and webinars, things like that. But I found this book to be a great read. It's a thick book. What I love about what Russell did in this book is he focused on sharing principles. He said, he goes, I don't know how, what social media platform is going to come along next, but when it does, here's the strategy that I recommend. One of the things I really, really like in this book that I've adopted is the chapter on Instagram. And he talks about, and he shares this model called the JK5 method. I don't know if you've heard of it, but the JK5 method is something he learned, and I forget the lady's name. Sorry, I can't remember, but JK is short for her initials. And she talked about if you want to be effective on social media, then you got to share the whole self. You can't just put your business stuff out there. You've got to think about the top 5 kind of domains of your life, the areas of your life, and start sharing them. And some of you, if you've been following me on social media, you've noticed a little bit of a shift. I'm sharing pictures more about what I'm up to with my family, showing family pics, projects I'm working on, hobbies and interests I have, and you're going to see a lot more of that in the day ahead. Here's why. It makes you as the guide or the mentor a much more attractive character and believable character if you're willing to show a little bit more of your life and not just your business side, because you're a holistic person, right? And so there's a lot that I got out of the book, but there you go. And the number one book for content marketing, this is a tough decision, but I decided to go with Your Message Matters. Now, I was having a good laugh with my family. I was talking about it, and I was like, should I make my book number 5? And they're like, no, because the guy who wrote that you should believe your message should believe his message. So, hey, I think I should just go with my own book. So, sorry if that makes me come across egotistical, but if I don't believe my message, how can I expect you to believe my message? And I truly, truly believe, although not perfect, this book is a culmination of 10 years of experience that was placed into 257 pages. 257 pages, 10 years of experience, 257 pages. So Your Message Matters is the book, and here's why. Here's why I wrote the book, okay? All of this that I just shared with you is marketing tactics and tools. But here's what I'm convinced of. If you don't believe you have a message, if you don't know what your gifts are, if you don't know who your audience is, it doesn't matter how much you know about all this stuff. It doesn't matter how many of the other 4 books, all the marketing tactics, the social media techniques. You know why? Because if you don't fundamentally believe that you have a message and you have a gift to share and that you have a unique ability that people need, you're not going to do any of the marketing stuff. You've got to start there first. And so when I went out to write this book, Your Message Matters, I wanted to be a 2-part book. Part 1 is a self-development journey. It's helping you uncover your unique gift that you have to share with the world and believing in that gift. And then once you do, it's getting into how do I share my message? How do I market it? And it's why we do this show. every single week and we bring this to you is because I want to help you do those two things. Uncover your message, and then I want you to go out and market it and make a difference in the world. So those are my top 5 books. I hope you enjoyed those, and I would highly recommend that you pick up any one of those books, read them, learn from them. I've adopted things from each of those books. And again, this is why I love books, because the people who write the books take their years of experience and boil it down into a couple hundred pages. Wow. You're not just buying a book. You are buying experience and knowledge. And I think that is a good reason to be a book reader. All right. Well, did you enjoy this episode? I hope so. And if you have ideas for future episodes, let me know. And if you don't know where to start, don't forget we have a 9-page guide to help you. Just go to marketyourmessage.com/discover and download the Discover Your Message Blueprint today. Well, that's it for this episode. Thanks for being here, and never forget, your message matters.